Hello and welcome to the evening news for Thursday, May 1, 2014. I'm Avinash Ramzan. Thanks for joining us. In the headlines, poor turnout across the country mars Labor Day celebrations. GTUC FITUG call for unity, better working conditions for Guyanese workers as the Labour Division continues. Policeman shoots 15-year-old in the mouth. PPPC condemns Hamilton Green's thuggery and bullyism tactics, and Coast Guard nabbed with cocaine at CJIA parking lot. Now for the news in detail. As workers took to the streets today for the Labor Day March, union leaders expressed their disappointment with the turnout. However, they are still determined to develop the labor movement in Guyana. Let's find out more in this report.
Despite the poor turnout for the march, workers and various union executives took to the streets of Georgetown. This newscast caught up with some of the leaders who noted that while they are disheartened by the turnout, they believe that workers are nevertheless conscious of their struggles. The leaders pledged to continue their fight to develop the labor movement. This is what they had to say.
Let me say this. Without a doubt, I'm saying with 200% confidence, the workers have power to achieve anything in this country. Right? They have the potential to do that. However, they are not united as they ought to be. They should remove those barriers, those doubts, those hesitations, and focus on the common well-being of the working people.
One of the most things I would like to see is that trade union education, and we pay more attention in organizing members into the unions. Because when we look at the statistics, that 120 workers in Guyana and 50,000 only unionized.
We are confident that the Guyana Teachers Union with the teachers are behind us on this Labor Day for this activity. As it relates to the Labor Union generally, I think the theme is fitting, that we need to unite to have be better able to bargain with our government for better salaries and wages, and apart from salaries and wages, better working condition for all workers.
Labor Day in Guyana is a day in which all workers must unite against one common cause, and that's the upliftment of the working class. As we all aware that Guyana at this stage is going through trying times, but as workers we have to remain steadfast and continue fighting for what is just, and that's for a decent living wage.
Also among the workers was opposition leader David Granger, who said that he will continue to push for the government to provide better working conditions for workers.
A partnership for national unity is marching with the Guyana Trade Union Congress in full support. We feel that the TUC has a message of hope for all the workers. The TUC is committed to trade union unity, is committed to improving the quality of life of workers. It is committed to removing some of the abuses, particularly at the bauxite company.
Meanwhile, May Day rally in Region 2 Pomeroon Supernam was poorly attended and attracted less workers and unions this year. The rally started off with workers marching from La Belle Alliance near Damon Cross and proceeding along the public road to the Anna Regina Community Center ground. The rally was held under the theme, Uniting Around Issues for Labor and National Development. Giving address at the rally was Region 2 Chairman Parmanan Pusod, who told workers that Region 2 is making tremendous strides in all sectors. Pusod noted that workers are benefiting from better working conditions in the region. Meanwhile, representative from the Guyana Agricultural General Workers Union, GAU, Mohammed Ahmad, said the union is a proud one and has principled record. Ahmad called on all workers to always be united and work in togetherness. The head of NACI, Kenneth Joseph, today chastised the management of the Guyana Sugar Corporation for not paying out monies to workers under a recent tribunal. More from Jomo Paul.
Speaking at today's Labor Day rally in National Park, Kenneth Joseph labeled the actions taken by GAISECO following a recent tribunal in favor of the workers as disrespectful.
I'm surprised when a corporation management can refuse to cooperate with the union, refuse to adhere to agreements, and show blatant bypass to a sitting Minister of Government. How can any of these be in the interest of workers or the bosses? I'm ashamed when trade union leaders allow management with super salary to threaten, degrade, and psychologically destroy the poorly underpaid salary earners.
Joseph also pointed out that it is time that companies seek to meaningfully engage the trade unions.
It is time for joint TUC fit-out meetings on important issues such as the future of the NIS, the safety and health of the nation's workers, especially with the rush in the mining sector, taking into consideration the need for green work and green jobs.
In the same vein, he lauded the labour force for the continued work in building Guyana's economy.
So today, on behalf of FITUG and on behalf of NACI, I pay tribute to all of Guyana's workers in office, factory and fields, and I include fishermen, cane and rice harvesters, clerical workers, nurses, policemen, drivers, teachers, engineers, security guards, stevedores, doctors, and every other level of worker necessary to keep an economy going.
For the evening news, Jomo Paul.
Meanwhile, members of the Guyana Trades Union Congress are calling on the government of Guyana to provide better working conditions for workers as they held their annual Labor Day rally. More in this report.
GTUC members are calling on government and the opposition to work together in order to come to a mutual consensus regarding the state of the labor movement in Guyana. Addressing the gathering, President of the Guyana Trades Union Congress, Leslie Gonzalez, said that union members should join forces so that their right to collective bargaining could be respected.
The Guyana Trades Union Congress calling every worker, every citizen, young and senior, working and non-working, employed and unemployed, to rise up in united voices in demanding a better life for themselves, their neighbors, because what affects one invariably affects all. We have to stand up and fight and ensure we live and work in a society and lead by a government and an opposition that would ensure and work with us to protect our rights and uphold our laws. When we came together, or when we can together achieve this, then together we will succeed.
General Secretary of the GTUC, Lincoln Lewis, told workers gathered at the Critchula Labour College that their rights are being trampled on by those in high authorities for selfish gains. He said that instead of moving forward, the actions of those in authority are pushing towards a new form of enslavement.
It is not development when the backs of the workers bend forward with the burden placed on them to sustain the lifestyle of a few. It is not development when workers cannot live in a society and feel secure of their environment is uncared for. It is not development when efforts in the workplace via the trade union are being denied because an employer refuses to engage in collective bargaining with the union. Comrades, it is not development when injustice permeates the society.
Meanwhile, Kathy Fowler of the Women Advisory Committee pointed out that statistics show that over 50% of the workforce are females. However, they are still being discriminated against. Fowler is urging the authorities to help with all of the problems posed by the society.
Women have played and continue to play pivotal roles in their unions. Even those women who cannot be manipulated in any way, whatever. We empathize with our sisters who allow themselves to be used against their fellow women and in the process relinquishing their independence to those who see no other worth in them but to use them as pawns.
President of the Federation of Independent Trade Union, Carville Duncan, says that FITUG remains open to dialogue with the GTUC on the Critchlow Labour College subvention. More in this report.
I am putting Lincoln on notice that FITUC is ready and willing to name their 4 persons. And we call on the TUC now to name their 4 persons, because in the final analysis, Critchlow Labour College is named after the founder of a union that I happens to be General Secretary.
That was FITUC's President Carville Duncan as he called for dialogue on the Critchlow Labour College Subvention Fund. Duncan also pointed out that to have the entire Parliament vote unanimously for a project and then for one man to reject it is an embarrassment.
The Critchlow Labour College have always complained about their subvention. They complain that they can't even pay their staff. And they got the opposition to go to Parliament and say, we want back with subvention. The whole Parliament agreed unanimously. And then one man got up and say, I want it. It's going to give FITUC an advantage.
Duncan further stated that the central executive of the GTUC and the Critchlow Labour College were not informed of the decision taken to reject the subvention.
I can recall being president of the TUC. I worked under a man named Polydor. And Polly used to say to me, give dialogue a chance. If something is suggested and you don't agree with it, then sit down and talk it out. You may very well achieve what you want to achieve, and everybody is happy. But where the TUC is concerned, there can't be no dialogue. You know why? I was informed that even the central executive of the TUC was not even aware that a decision was taken to let the party subvention and parliamentary decision go back where it come from.
For the evening news, Jomo Paul.
This is the evening news. Stay tuned. More news ahead. Welcome back. This is the evening news on TVG. In this Jomo Paul report, you'll hear that the first vice president of the Federation of Independent Trade Unions has seen it fit to chastise the U.S. and other world powers for actions taken around the globe. Let's find out more in this report.
As the world celebrated Labor Day, the first VP of FITUC, Komal Chan, condemned U.S. government and other world superpowers for the woes faced by the world's labor faction.
Ever since the breakup of the socialist system, a little over 2 decades ago, U.S. imperialism has run roughshod across our planet. It saw new opportunities to impose the neoliberal model of capitalism on countries, to realize its age-old dream of world domination, and to cast its greedy eyes on the resources owned by the peoples. In its triumphalism, it took the title as the superpower, sole superpower, and seen as such. For those who walk in the corridors of power in the U.S. empire, the world becomes unipolar, and they, in new conditions, sought to usher in a new world order.
Chan pointed out that in most cases, the working class is affected by the effects of war.
Today's crisis is not only one of its biggest, but also one which is not easily going away. In seeking a solution, the ruling classes are throwing the burden on the backs of the working class, youth, pensioners, and other segments of the people. The results of the crisis and the measure resorted to by the rulers are for millions going unemployment, homelessness, cutting of pensions, less spending on social services, widespread impoverishment of the masses.
He further noted that the governments continue to face the same struggles they faced years ago, despite advancements in some key areas.
These history-making and inspiring events occurred 128 years ago. During this time, many battles have been fought by the working people and oppressed worldwide, and many gains have been made too. But some critical things remain the same.
For the Evening News, Jumo Paul.
Industrial Relations Officer of the Guyana Public Service Union, Ram Mangru, has accused the joint opposition in Parliament of letting public servants down. Mangru has also criticized the Public Service Minister Jennifer Westford as he addressed public servants at a May Day rally in New Amsterdam today. According to him, he is not aware of any talks between the union and the Public Service Ministry on public servants' wages and salaries. He said the Public Service Ministry has not engaged the GPSU in wages discussions for the past 20 years. Mangru argued that the onus is now on the trade unions to continue to fight for better wages and better working conditions. The police are investigating the circumstances surrounding an incident where at about 20 hours 55 last evening, Alex Griffith, aged 15, of East Lepenitent squatting area in Georgetown, was shot to his mouth by a policeman. Bishar Mohammed reports.
The bullet reportedly entered the mouth of Alex Griffith, 15, of Northeast Lepenitent squatting area, Georgetown, and exited at the back of his head. He is presently a patient in the male surgical ward of the Georgetown Public Hospital, and according to reports, there is a possibility that he might not speak again. The teen's mother, Marcel Griffith, said that the police visited her home with the intention of questioning her son with respect to a robbery, but she held out that her son had no knowledge.
Last night, three men come to my door claiming they are police, right? But my son, no one of them is a police or constable. And he told me that nothing really happened. Nothing happened, that my child is not really involved in no problem. It's some robbery that they happen and they think he knows who. He's saying, I don't know anything. So he leave now, he trying to tell the police. You could even go and ask this little girl, because the little girl was there, all the family was in there watching the TV by these people. So they say, all right, good, come, let me go and talk to this girl.
The woman added that her son was dragged and severely beaten from the time the police left her home to the time they arrived at another house where he would have spent most of the day.
The little girl turned and say, Alex was inside there. I said, no, nothing. The police still insists that he know, grabbily and carry behind and proper beat my child. Exy foot, put it down stampy. When they done, they pull it out and they carry back so. And put in the vehicle because the vehicle was there. When they put in the vehicle, in front of the church, I asked the police, I said, so what we are doing with this child? You want it for questioning, we are one with it. He said, come and get your child at the station, at breakdown. So I gone home now. Going home now, I hear a gunshot till around the side. I say, hope it's not my child jump out the vehicle for run away. And they shoot him.
The woman added that when she reached the police station, her son was not there. But she later received a telephone call from the Georgetown Public Hospital informing her that the teen was shot and was in the emergency unit. There, her son, who could not have spoken clearly, told her what had transpired.
Take my child out of the vehicle, put him to lie down, tell mommy, it's mommy, take her out, pay for lie down. Put one bullet in the gun, one bullet they put in the gun, and roll the barrel, shoot, the one in come out, see, shoot again. Until she won't penetrate.
The woman said that she was shocked by the action of the police officers and has since contacted a lawyer to look into the matter. This newscast understands that the police who pulled the trigger is under close arrest and has taken the law into his own hands following a robbery committed on his sister by a group of teenagers. Bisham Mohammed, The Evening News.
Chief Executive Officer of the Guyana Telephone and Telegraph Company, R.K. Sharma, says that more community effort is needed if the acts of vandalism are to be curbed. Let's find out more in this report.
Chief Executive Officer of the Guyana Telephone and Telegraph Company, R.K. Sharma, made the comments during an interview on Wednesday at the signing of a Memorandum of Understanding between the company and the University of Guyana at the Cara Lodge. He noted that the acts of vandalism on the company's property not only caused financial discomfort to the entity, but also to the citizens, since the telephone service is sometimes the only means of communication for many. On this note, he urged citizens to play a role in the safekeeping of the company's resources, since it is in their well-being.
This has to be more a combination of community awareness and society as a whole aware that an act of vandalism destroys an infrastructure and then disrupts service that is so much needed, because it's physically impossible to safeguard every piece of network infrastructure in this country. So it has to be a combination of vigilance on communities. It has to be some element of law enforcement. I've seen the Prime Minister has issued a statement. I've seen the PUC has issued a statement. And I think as more and more persons recognize what it means to society if you're going to have these irresponsible acts of vandalism, but in terms of safeguarding the practicality of it, limits what one can do.
The CEO further disclosed that the company had spent some $32 million in repairs last year due to acts of vandalism. This year, more than $3.5 million have been spent already. GT&T, the Public Utilities Commission, and the Prime Minister have condemned the acts and are asking the general public to report any suspicion they may have of who the perpetrators may be. An estimated 1,500 persons were said to be affected from the 50 meters of cable which was stolen. Reporting for the Evening News, Gomati Gangade.
34 Peace Corps trainees arrived in Georgetown on the evening of April 29 to complement their 39 colleagues already in service. The new trainees make up the 26th group of Peace Corps volunteers to serve in Guyana, and they will soon begin their pre-service training. For the duration of the training, the incoming volunteers lived with host families who guide them in understanding the Guyanese way of life as they learn how to cook local food, negotiate in the marketplace, and participate in community activities. Pre-service training also entails a technical component within both the health and education sectors. Over the 11 weeks, trainees will be engaged in a field practicum in local schools and health centers. This enhances the trainees' abilities to meet the needs of the communities they will serve. The group is expected to be officially sworn in as Peace Corps volunteers on July 3, 2014. The Peace Corps was first active in Guyana from 1966 to 1971. In 1993, Peace Corps was invited to return to Guyana by the late President Dr. Chadi Jagan, and the first group arrived in 1995. Since its establishment, more than 700 American volunteers have served in Guyana, working hand in hand with the people of the country. Executive member of the Private Sector Commission, Ramesh Duku, has given the 10th Parliament a low rating, saying it has accomplished little since it was constituted on January 12, 2012. Svetlana Marshall reports.
When the people of Guyana spoke and created by their voting that dispensation in Parliament, many of us were optimistic. We said, here's the people of Guyana forcing the opposition and the government to work together. Unfortunately, it hasn't worked out that way. When there was a majority government in Parliament, we seem to have achieved a lot more than we are achieving now.
That was PSC Executive Member Ramesh Duku speaking with the Evening News on the achievements made by the National Assembly. Duku said major projects such as the US $80 million specialty hospital and the Amila Falls hydropower project are being stymied due to lack of compromise by the government and the opposition. According to him, these projects would have benefited all Guyanese, creating better opportunities for the underprivileged. While it is okay to disagree, the PSC members said the government and the opposition need to put the nation first.
What we have is still good. What we need to do is fix the maturity, and we need to continue the process of democratization. The fact that we have credible elections has given us a parliament like that, and the message to our parliamentarians is that the people of Guyana is asking you to work together. And if you can't do that, perhaps they will deal with you at the next elections.
Based on the 10th Parliament's track record, many are of the view that snap elections might be the only way out, but Duku opined that the political leaders are not in favor of such elections. According to him, President Donald Ramotar and leader of the opposition David Granger should rise above the fray, embrace each other with respect, and put Guyana first. Reporting for the Evening News, I am Svetlana Marshall.
That says the Evening News. Stay tuned for more news later. This is the Evening News on TVG. Welcome back. The ruling People's Progressive Party Civic has strongly condemned what it referred to as thuggery and bullyism tactics of the former PNCR Prime Minister and current Georgetown Mayor Hamilton Green.
In a press statement earlier today, the party cited the recent 2014 Easter upheaval in which the mayor sought to stymie the collection of cash legally collected by the city council along the Georgetown seawalls. The statement stated that the act has confirmed the extent to which the mayor would go to derail genuine efforts to root out corruption at City Hall, which includes introducing measures for greater accountability and transparency. The statement continued that Town Clerk Carol Suba has been the target of all sorts of attacks, harassments, and embarrassments because of her efforts to root out corruption at the entity. It also took the opportunity to commend Suba for her firm stance in tackling the corruption at City Hall and in the recent instance, upsetting all those who had their eyes fixed on stealing taxpayers' money. The statement continued to remind how Public Relations Officer Royston King illegally signed as the acting town clerk to write off some $36 million in taxes to a city business. The party said that it hopes that the matter can be speedily investigated from a criminal perspective so that King could give an account for his actions. The statement said that the citizens of Georgetown are anxious to hear from both opposition leaders David Granger and Kemrat Ramtatan with respect to Mayor Green's thuggery and lawlessness and the pervasive corruption at City Hall. Reporting for the Evening News, Gomati Gangadin.
A Coast Guard attached to the Guyana Defence Force was on Wednesday nabbed at a parking lot of the Chadijagan International Airport with 4 kilograms of cocaine in his vehicle. The man, whose name was given as Ziggy, was reportedly nabbed by the Customs Anti-Narcotics Unit at about 15 hours. According to information received, the man, who operates his Toyota NZE motor car at the Soosdijk-Linden Highway Junction as a private hire taxi, is presently being interrogated by ranks of the Drug Enforcement Unit but has maintained his innocence. Reports reaching this newscast revealed that a man would have been contracted by a male passenger who requested to be taken to the CJIA to drop him off. The man reportedly had a few bags, and upon arriving at the port of entry, the passenger instructed the driver to use the parking lot, claiming that he was going to reach someone. After time had elapsed, the driver of the car reportedly came out of his vehicle and looked for the man, but there was no signs of him. As the Coast Guard went back to his car, several ranks attached to Canoe acting on information went to the car requesting to conduct a search. The University of Guyana has signed an agreement with the Guyana Telephone and Telegraph Company to the tune of some $60 million Guyana dollars. Find out why in this report.
The Memorandum of Understanding was signed at the Carver Lodge by Chief Executive Officer of the company, Radha Krishna Sharma, and the Vice Chancellor of the University of Guyana, Jacob Upaday, in the presence of other officials from the company and the institution. The agreement will be valid from April 2014 to April 2017, a period of 3 years, and will see the sum of $20 million being spent annually. The CEO, R.K. Sharma, noted that the memorandum will strengthen the relationship which the two entities already share. He further described the provisions which will be made possible with the contribution.
GT&T shall provide sponsorship funds to the university in amount of 20 million annually for a period of 3 years, distributed across sub-projects as follows. Delivery of 2 megabytes of dedicated internet bandwidth to the Center for Information Technology at the university at an overall cost of $1,200,000 monthly. Provision of $4.4 million annually to fund capital works identified by the University of Guyana. Additionally, we will undertake the following: retooling and refurbishing of the CIT laboratory, inclusive of the replacement of the 57 computers that was donated in 2004. This is at a cost of $10 million. Provision of additional support, router, access point, etc., to enhance the delivery and distribution of the bandwidth. Provision of a closed user group service package to University of Guyana administrative staff with a view of offering savings and greater value for money. Continuation of work, study, internship opportunities for students. It is expected that the refurbishment of the CIT will commence immediately, and the recommissioning of this laboratory will take place at the beginning of the new academic year.
Vice Chancellor of the University, Jacob Obade, thanked the company for the contribution, noting that it was indeed a pleasure to see the corporate community involved in the development of the university. Some 7,000 persons are expected to benefit from the donation. Reporting for the Evening News, I'm Gomati Gangadin.
Head of the Presidential Secretariat, Dr. Roger Luncheon, says it is unlikely that critical anti-money laundering legislation would be passed ahead of the new deadline set by the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force. Here's more in this report.
Head of the Presidential Secretariat, Dr. Roger Luncheon, said that it is likely Guyana will miss the May 29 deadline of the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force for the enactment of the anti-money laundering legislation.
A strange message is the contention of Cabinet to send to the executive of CFATF on this historic visit, and indeed in the run-up to the May 2014 plenary, at which it is quite clear Guyana would not, highly unlikely Guyana would be tabling, presenting, and enacted anti-money laundering, combating the financing of terrorism amendment act.
Luncheon also pointed out that the failure of the passage of the legislation lies solely at the feet of the opposition. He maintained that if the opposition was willing to compromise and put the interest of the Guyanese people at heart, the bill can and will be passed by the final deadline given to the country.
The government of Guyana is not the obstacle to Guyana subscribing to CFATF and FATF guidelines. Neither the stakeholders who have unanimously supported CFATF and FATF in these endeavors. It is the opposition, the parliamentary opposition, APNU and AFC, that remains the sole obstacle to Guyana subscribing the CFATF and FATF guidelines.
His comments come just days after TFF's chairperson Alison Maynard Gibson visited the country and engaged all stakeholders to inform them of the dark future which Guyana faces if the legislation is not enacted.
Witness number 4 in the Walter Rodney Commission of Inquiry, Reverend Reuben Gilbert, revealed yesterday that the People's National Congress government, led by the late President Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham, had done all it could during the 1970s to stifle his growth, with an attempt being made to take his life. Alexis Rodney reports.
Reverend Gilbert told the inquiry that had he not been made aware of the plans by the PNC government to assassinate him in the early 1980s, he may not have been alive today. Gilbert said since his return from the United States in 1969 with a Bachelor's of Science degree, every effort was made by the ruling government to stifle his growth as he was considered a security risk. He said he was denied job opportunities at many government agencies. When he was finally able to secure a job, it was taken away.
I was trying all I knew to find out why is it I was dismissed. But no one was willing to tell me why I was dismissed. And days went by, weeks went by, but I was still trying, and I happened to get, because they weren't even allowing me to see the permanent secretary, because I would go and ask the secretary, the secretary to the permanent secretary, may I have an interview with the permanent secretary? He's not there. Another time, oh, he has gone out. But there came a time when I did get to see him, and he told me that you are a security risk.
Gilbert explained that 3 months prior to the death of Dr. Walter Rodney in 1980, while he was driving home, his friend James Daniels, who was also a member of the PNC, had stopped him and informed him about the plan.
His exact word, they are going to come to kill you tonight. And the day meaning the YSM hitman of the PNC, because he, James, was a member of the PNC party, and he told me, he said, look, what they're going to do, they're going to say that you had when they kill you, they're going to say that you had a gun there in that guitar case.
The YSM, Gilbert explained, was another tool used by the then government to register its presence in the country. He recounted many instances where he was also severely beaten by the members of the riot squad, suffering 2 broken ribs, and it was all because he was supporting a meeting held by Dr. Rodney. He said he spent a day in the police station. Asked what may have led to his arrest, Gilbert said he later found out that it was for the possession of guns, a claim he knows nothing of. Gilbert concluded that his trials were numerous, but he was able to flee Guyana. For the Evening News, I'm Alexis Rodney.
This is the Evening News. Stay tuned for more news after the break. Welcome back. This is the Evening News. Now some news from the region. Venezuela's largest private company, Empresa Polar, said on Tuesday it was halting production of pasta due to delays in foreign currency allocations from the government. President Nicolas Maduro's socialist government is holding meetings with business leaders in an effort to boost productivity in the OPEC nation. But firms continue to complain of problems, including currency restrictions. Companies pay local bolivars to State Currency Board Senseox, formerly known as SADIVI, to receive US dollars for imports. Polar said it needed to import wheat for pasta, a basic staple in Venezuela. Internationally, the United States named China and India on a watch list for countries that aren't doing enough to fight intellectual property crimes, warning of trade secret theft in China and the proliferation of generic drugs and counterfeiting in India. The U.S. Trade Representative, the USTR, resisted lobbying the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and Pharmaceutical Industry to censure India with the worst offender tag in its annual scorecard on how well countries protect U.S. patents, copyrights, and other intellectual property rights. The United States instead kept India, which is in the midst of elections, on its priority watch list, along with China and 8 other countries. It would start a special review of India in the fall and redouble efforts to address concerns with the new government, the USTR said. Some were disappointed that the USTR failed to name India as the priority foreign country, a label that can eventually lead to trade sanctions. This is the evening news, where we now take a look at your bridge reports. The Damrar Harbour Bridge will be closed on Friday, May 2 at 5 hours for a period of 1.5 hours, and the Berbice River Bridge will be closed on Friday, May 2 at 5 hours 40 for a period of 1.5 hours. Join us after the break for sport, sponsored by MacCorp. This is the Evening News. Welcome back. Now for a look at sport, but first, the headlines. Atwell preparing for high altitude in Mexico. 20 teams to compete in Independent Softball Cup, and Guyana Cricket Board launches website. Of course, our sportcast comes to you with the kind compliments of MacCorp.
This is the machine you asked for, and it's what we are delivering. Introducing the new CAT D2 series.
Improvements made with you in mind. A mechanically controlled engine designed to cope with Guyana's toughest conditions. Lower fuel consumption and less maintenance, which reduces your owning and operating costs. The highest productivity in the market. Robust design, which is built to last. MacCorp, the only authorized Caterpillar dealer in Guyana, bringing integrated solutions for your success. Let's build Guyana together.
Welcome back. Now for the details. We start off with some boxing news. The world title contender Clive the Punisher Atwell says he has been preparing to deal with the high-altitude condition during his fight against Johnny Gonzalez in Mexico. According to the boxer, his camp has contracted the services of a top local trainer to aid the process. Let's find out more in this report.
With the time span available, I have been doing fitness and lungs training with a fitness expert by the name of Andrew Hooper, who is unavailable to be here today. We have been working with the altitude mass that you can regulate the amount of oxygen you breathe. So from time to time you carry it up, you bring it down depending on the workout. So we have been using what is available to us until we actually get there to put the actual body in the atmosphere.
Atwell is slated to depart Guyana on Friday for Gleason's Gym in New York to up his preparations, and according to coach Lennox Daniels, his boxer is 75% ready for the contest on May 24 in Mexico. Daniels explains what else is needed to get Atwell to peak condition.
Well, we have some final work to do in terms of talking about morning walk, we're talking about interval training. We will do a lot of series of runs to open his lungs and some more sparring.
Meanwhile, overseas-based Guyanese Sion Bristol, who has offered to join Team Atwell ahead of the fight, described the Guyanese as the underdog, but declared that once Atwell fully prepares, an upset cannot be ruled out.
After speaking with Clive, I had to tell him straight out, what are the advantages you have in regards to being successful against Johnny Gonzalez? We're looking at the given. Now, we know the underneath. The between, we can look at fights such as Mike Tyson versus... who's the guy that knocked him out first?
Buster Douglas.
Buster Douglas. There's always a chance for the underdog, but one of my priorities is that you have to be prepared, well prepared to, as an underdog, to take that title away.
Atwell's opponent, the 32-year-old Gonzalez, is vastly experienced with a total of 63 fights, 55 of which he has won, with 47 knockouts and 8 defeats. At 25, Atwell is now building what has been a fantastic career to date, with 12 wins and a draw from 13 trips to the Square Jungle. Information on Guyana's cricket is now just a click away with the launch of the Guyana Cricket Board's website, www.guyanacricketboard.com, which will provide extensive details on all cricket-related topics. The GCB has partnered with GX Media to construct the site, which, according to the web developer Girendra Prasad, has several features including links to social media and live updates of matches. Persaud, who has been contracted by the GCB to maintain the site for a year, described it as the information hub of the GCB. Marketing manager of the board, Raj Singh, said the construction of the site began about 2 months ago when GX Media was contracted for the project. He noted that users will have access to the board's constitution, daily news, fixtures and results of matches, among others. Singh said this is another step by the GCB to professionalize the way cricket is being administered in Ghana, even in the face of several off-field challenges. The GCB secretary and one of the West Indies Cricket Board's directors, Anand Sinasi, noted that the establishment of the site is part of efforts to improve the cricketing landscape. And finally, a total of 20 teams will do battle in 3 different categories this weekend when the inaugural Independence Softball Cup organized by the Georgetown Softball Cricket League is staged at venues in the city. More in this report. The tournament will be held from Saturday to Monday with top softball teams set to battle for supremacy in the various categories. Ian John, an executive of the Georgetown Softball Cricket League, explained that after the successful staging of the Republic Cup in February, the league was encouraged by the National Sports Commission to host a tournament to usher in Ghana's independence anniversary, hence the genesis of the competition.
This cup, as you said, will be played over 3 days, and it has 3 categories available: the male over 40, the male open, and the women's category. In the male over 40, you will having 6 teams participating. In the women's category, you have 6 teams. And the male open, which is on 2020 affair, you're having 8 teams.
Director of Sport Neil Kumar, who attended the launch on Wednesday afternoon at the GNIC ground on Wolford Avenue, challenged the league to host a massive competition in 2016 to coincide with the country's 50th independence anniversary.
And as such, I have convened meeting with the diaspora in Canada and America to have we sending team there and to have them coming down in 2016 so we could have really interesting team. If we could have female team along with male team going, and I'm telling you girls, fight for let us take a female team down in both Canada and America. We must work, and I am quite certain we could get the sponsorship. I'm quite certain we could get things organized and we could have a good tournament. So this is a challenge to you that you must have this tournament. We must work towards having a very good tournament in this year, a very excellent tournament next year. So by 2016 we must be sharp enough to really perform.
Preliminary games will be held on Saturday and Sunday, while the semi-finals and finals will be contested on Monday. Matches will be held at the Everest, St. Stanislaus, DCC, GNIC and Education Ministry grounds. The semi-finals and finals are built for the Everest ground, with action set to bowl off at 9 hours on each day. And with that, we've come to the end of sport, which is sponsored by MACORP. Of course, you can find these and many more stories in tomorrow's edition of the Ghana Times. And here's an invitation to join us on TVG Channel 28 and on Radio Guyana Inc. 89.3 in Essequibo, 89.5 in Georgetown Environs, and 89.7 in Berbice and Unikeri, Suriname. And that's it for the evening news for Thursday, May 1, 2014. I'm Avinash Ramzan. From all of us here, thanks for watching.